I'm going to explain the handouts for this week. This is additional information to help you understand how it is that different people, actually of the same type, look very different. There are many variables. There's many variables in a human being, but there's many variables even within the Enneagram system. So I want to explain a couple of those. I understand that 3 weeks exploring the Enneagram is going to feel a little overwhelming. So just take in what you can of this material. I just want it to help support you as you're asking questions. So please ask any questions that you have at any point along the way. The first handout is called the levels of health. This is a pretty key factor. It's a huge factor in relationships. It's a huge factor in work environments, but it is probably the most important to understand why people look so different when they are the same Enneagram type. And we're not going to even go into a whole body of material called the instincts. You're going to read about it in the Wisdom of the Enneagram, but that is another whole um, uh, teaching that we don't have time for in this course. But the levels of health really describe how much we identify with our personality structure. At the upper level, we hold our personality very lightly. In average levels, we feel more constrained by our personality and exhibit more of the particular fixations of the type. And then finally, in the unhealthy level, these people generally need some kind of intervention to be able to become healthy. We're not going to really deal with these levels, though they are described in your handout. This V shape is probably the most visually descriptive. When we are our most healthy, and we can be healthy in the morning and get less healthy in the afternoon and become sometimes really unhealthy when we're really stressed. But most of us fall somewhere in one of these levels. Most of us, and I'm pointing to the average level, most of us find ourselves somewhere on the average level. And some, of course, can move into the healthy levels. We have one place where we sort of land. Hehowever, that said, we can move into greater health and lesser health according to the circumstances of our lives. So that a person can, as I said, in the morning be really healthy, by late afternoon being tired, move into the unhealthy level. But we don't stay in any one of those. We find our particular place where we are. These words that are on your sheet describe in more detail how much we hold on to our ego type. But this V describes it best. When we are healthy, we have all kinds of possibilities. Something happens and we can behave in any number of ways in response to that. So this is talking about the freedom, the liberation. We're still an ego. We still have an ego. We just hold it very lightly. As we move down the levels, and you'll probably hear me refer to that over the course of time, down the levels, we have less capacity for choice. And so therefore, less freedom. So that is the levels of health. The next handout describes, the next two handouts describe how each type is related um, to each other on the lines and arrows is what we refer to it as. The first one that I'm describing or that you're looking at is the direction of disintegration. Disintegration is a little bit of a misnomer. When we do fall into stress, or we are tense or tired or hungry, or in a dangerous place, or a place that is unfamiliar, any number of life circumstances and common life circumstances, our type will disintegrate. So the 9, for example, disintegrates to the 6, so that you can see that 9 and 6 are related. So the 9, generally easygoing, becomes fearful at 6. And that is a quality that you can begin to recognize if you are a 9 and begin to go, well, I think this may be my type because I do that. So this can also help you find out your type. 6s disintegrate to 3. So 6s, who are generally team players and egalitarian, will become a little bossy and a little arrogant at 3. 3s disintegrate to 9. 3s who are competent and successful become at 9 a little bit of so what, complacent. 1s, generally principled and oriented toward truth and doing the right thing, will become emotional and a little self-indulgent at 4. 4s, who are the ones who understand their inner nature and are quite realized in terms of their own need to be unique, will become at 2 very clingy, very wanting to control maybe others or to help others in some kind of way. 2 disintegrates to 8, so that the 2, who is generally very generous and supportive and caring about other people, can really move to a sense of power and kind of dominating other people at 8. 8s, generally strong and leaders and having a sense of big goals and dreams, will disintegrate to 5 and become withdrawn and secluded and closed to others. 5s, who are generally cerebral, in their head, thoughtful, oriented toward their mind, will at 7 become scattered and kind of hyperactive. So what happens is the type begins to look like another type. They don't become the type. They're kind of blowing off steam. The 7 then, who disintegrates to 1, the 7 who is generally happy and acquisitive and wants to experience a lot of things and is generally fairly upbeat, will disintegrate to 1 and become critical and judgmental, pointing their fingers at others. So this is the whole way, briefly, of how those are related. When we look at the direction of integration, the arrows go the other way. So for example, the 9, when we integrate, oh, well, let me say something about this direction of integration. We're going to be spending a lot of time on your second sermon. This is also called the direction of security. It's also called the soul child. So this is where we're really going to be spending a lot more attention in your second sermon and as you're doing the preparation for the second sermon. The 9 then, in integrating, in a security point, when they're feeling comfortable at home, safe, they feel like they can actually embody this other type. So the 9 then, who is mostly behind the scenes, nothing special, easygoing, becomes at 3 quite accomplished. They show up in their lives and can become extremely successful. 3s, as they move into the direction of integration, the place of safety and this one is, for example, the soul child of the 3 is the 6. So inside every little 3, there is a 6. A 6, the 3 who is all about me, being successful, number 1, the best, will at 6 be the team player, care about other people succeeding as much as their own success. And then 6s integrate to 9, meaning the soul child, the 6's soul child is the 9, which is this, the 6s can be anxious and doubtful and, not sure about what to do, feeling worrying and stressing about decisions. At 9, become quite content and peaceful, and all will be well. And then if we look at the other arrows, 1 integrates to 7. So the 1 who is principled and doesn't show emotions normally and kind of constrained will become at 7 playful and fun-loving and silly and doing things just because they want to do them. So can you feel they're almost opposite energies, but this becomes then this soul child that needs integration. And so that's what we're going to be really focusing on in the preaching is how does giving room to the soul child integrate us further. The 7 integrates to 5. So the 7 who is externally oriented, moving in the world, quick-minded, eager for every new opportunity, wanting to do everything, becomes at 5 quite focused, quite able to go deep in what they want to know. So the inch thick and a mile wide becomes a mile deep, an inch wide and a mile deep. The 5, who is more generally contained, self-contained, doesn't need to speak in a crowd, is quite happy to be detached from others, becomes at 8 quite present and able to make strong decisions and can feel their bodily strength. So the head type goes to this bodily kind of power. And the 8, full of this empowered forcefulness, moves and integrates. The soul child then is the 2, the caring for others, the sensitivity, the compassion, the warmth of the two. And the two, caring about others, always attending and having a kind of a sixth sense about what others need, spending their lives in more sacrificial ways, become at 4 all about their own uniqueness, all about their own, who am I? And wanting to know who they are. So you can see it kind of completes the type. And then 4s integrate to 1. So that the 4 who is unique often feels a little misunderstood because they don't fit in to all the categories of normal, of other normal people. Move in the direction of what is right and what is good for all. And so begins to have this bigger view outside of themselves. So you can see that this is kind of a luscious place to begin to work on balance. And then finally, your last handout has to do with wings. It's pretty simple, though it takes on its own life as you really learn about it. But wings are simply, and my particular school teaches that you have 1 wing. Some schools teach that you have 2 wings. And all this means is, if, for example, you're a type 9, you're going to have the flavor of the 8 or the flavor of the 1. So it's the numbers that are contiguous around the circle. So an 8 either has a 9 wing or a 7 wing. A 7 either has an 8 wing or a 6 wing. And what that means is something like, well, you have a Coke, and then you have a cherry Coke, and then you have a lemon lime Coke. So it's still Coke. You still have the same main orientation, but it's flavored differently. And what happens then as you begin to look at your type, you can begin to say, oh, yeah, I can see that I'm a 2 because I have this flavor of the 1, or I have this flavor of the 3. And so I identify with them fairly, not equally, but I identify with the 1 that's next door. So that can also help you to understand what type you are by looking at the ways in which they relate to these other types. So please send questions and blessings on your way.